folks, it's that time again. It is time to take a look at what our favourite resident neo-Nazi Doctor Who fan has been up to. He's very, very angry about the state of Doctor Who again, which means I need to come prepared. Apparently he mentions me in the video, so this is going to be fun. So for those of you who don't know, we have a YouTube user called Bolstrek. He is a Canadian neo-Nazi, and I don't mean neo-Nazi in a, oh, he's a bad man who I disagree with on stuff like that. No, he literally thinks that Series 11 of Doctor Who was a Jewish conspiracy to get rid of all of the white people from the BBC. He got incredibly angry, almost to the point of tears, when black people appeared in Doctor Who Flux. He claimed that the bad special effects for Doctor Who Flux was done because of diversity hires. He seems to think that disabled people should not be in media. If we take his review of Doctor Who, It Takes You Away as any indication. And he also thinks, in the last reaction video I did of him, he thinks that LGBTQ plus people are just downright illegal. He did a new video, thumbnail, RTD is above you. Doctor Who showrunner goes after the fans. I have not pre-watched this video. I have been told about it because apparently he mentions me towards the end of it, so that'll be fun, see if he actually has a response. But yeah, I don't pre-watch these things because I also like to emphasize that these arguments are so bad just on the face of it, are just like so terrible and so poorly thought out and illogical that you don't even need any preparation to sort of counter them. So grab your popcorn, folks, we're going after Bolstrek again. Doctor Who showrunner goes after the fans.
Wow, isn't that a wonderful way to endear yourself to people and entice them to come back to a franchise that was already on a concrete slab before you decided to come back and started spraying urine on the slab for good measure? As for the Davros thing, that will be in a separate video. Here we're going...
So if this isn't about the Davros thing, it'll be quite interesting actually what he's going to be talking about and mention him. So on screen right now, he's just got the dudes already shouting, oh yeah, of course. He's just in a perpetual state of shouting. So he's showing a Metro article with the headline, quote, "If you hate that Doctor Who includes trans people, good luck to your lonely life," which is a Russell T Davies interview that he did last week, talking about the inclusion of Yasmin Finney in the 60th anniversary special. So yeah, let's see what he has to say about this. We know from his previous reactions that he unequivocally hates black people. He unequivocally hates LGBTQ plus people to the point where he called them illegal. That's not quite how the law works. Just because you don't like something does not make them illegal, but we are dealing with a baby logic from a baby man. Anyway.
To discuss RTD's elitist contempt for the people that got him where he is. The Doctor Who showrunner has strong words to anyone that hates the reality of showing that group that I'm probably not allowed to even mention by name on this platform and their families on TV.
Like trans people. I don't know why he's so adverse to just saying the word trans people in his video. He did this in his last one as well. Some people in the comment section said that apparently the reason he says he can't say that word is because he wants to actually use a slur, aka the T, it rhymes with granny. He wants to say that about trans people, which firstly, the joke doesn't even make sense because that's not what the headline says. It just says trans people. And the headlines that he was talking about in previous interviews just says trans people. So this is an incredibly immature and babyish and outright bigoted thing for him to do. It's like saying, I can't even say the word black people from interviews because I want to say a slur. If I can't shout the N-word, I can't even talk about black people. If I can't say the F slur about gay people, it's just openly, stupidly bigoted, but in a way that doesn't even make any sort of sense. Anyway, so yeah, there's the headline.
Oh, just shut the hell up. Reality check time for the canceling salivating mob coming into my comment section, and it's sad that I have to make disclaimers in every video on this subject. But that's the...
We're not even a sentence in. Well, he's only read like the opening subheading blurb of this Metro article and he's already shouting and screaming. Russell T Davies, in the context of this article, literally hasn't even said anything yet, and this is the state of mind he's in. Oh my god. Not even past the first bar, not even past the first sentence, and he's already off his rocker.
world we live in. There's nothing wrong in making entertainment for specific, very narrow demographics, as long as, in this case, it's only meant for people over 18 years old, and it's explicitly stated that it's only meant for people over 18 years old. As I've said before...
So this train of thought that LGBTQ plus representation should only be in media made for adults is obviously stupidly bigoted, of course, but it's a similar train of thought from, like, decades past, when you had people, like genuinely people in the 1950s and 60s talking about media representation for black people, saying, like, I'm all for, like, interracial romances in media. I'm all for interracial kisses, for example, like they did in Star Trek. That was the first televised one, or at least it's considered to be the first televised interracial kiss. But that should be for adults. You should keep the children away from that. It's genuine, like, think of the children... delusion or bigotry, like, you can be gay elsewhere, but keep them away from the kids. But we also know that he wouldn't be happy with that representation either. He was complaining about the movie Bros in the last video, which is an adult same-sex romantic comedy, and he wasn't happy that that movie existed either. So in Bolstrek's case, kids can't watch LGBTQ plus content, or they can't watch content with LGBTQ plus content or people in it or representation, and he's unhappy when it's in media that's meant for adults, like romantic comedies and adult romantic comedies. Like, there is no amount of representation of LGBTQ plus people that would make Bolstrek happy.
If you're over 18, I have no problem with you being you, as long as you're doing
That's a lie.
it for the right reasons. As long as you're not telling me what to...
What are the right reasons? If he's talking about transitioning, which firstly, that once again, this is like, we're talking about a different century of rhetoric here, which has sort of made its resurgence over the past, like, 5 or 6 years or so, where it's like, oh, as long as you're being gay for the right reasons, it's a lifestyle choice. That's something that, being gay was considered to be, and like being trans as well. Basically, for the most part, most people don't choose to be trans, they just are trans. So, what do you mean doing it for the right reasons? What does that even mean in this case? What are the right reasons?
To think or say, don't tell others what to think or say.
How is LGBTQ plus people being in media telling them what to think or do or say? Just their mere presence being in media does not make the person, like, become that immediate. If you, for example, watched The Star Beasts and you watch Yasmin Finney, and all of a sudden you become trans, I'm sorry, folks, you were trans before the broadcast of The Star Beast.
Don't expect special treatment. Don't seek to destroy the lives of people that don't see things the same way that you do. And don't...
It depends on what those different opinions are. Like, for example, I think that a demographic or a group should die or be excised from existence. Yeah, I think that you can have the consequences for that group. We fought wars over that. There was literally a civil war in America about ownership of black people. There was a world war about this ideology. Bolstrek, your side lost. I'm so sorry to inform you this.
Force reality to mold to your current worldview. This show is not...
Forcing reality. Trans people exist. Come on.
And never was for any specific demographic, at least not until about 6 years ago. This show is about a man who travels through time in a police box. It was never about explicitly focusing on certain groups. It's a show...
How is it... This is like saying, for example, imagine... Bolstrek is a young up-and-coming YouTuber in the year of 1966. The 10th Planet broadcasts. Earl Cameron is playing a black astronaut, one of the first people of colour in Doctor Who in terms of representation. And now Bolstrek is taking the approach, there's a black... Why are you trying to appeal so much to black people? Just because a marginalised group is represented in a piece of media does not mean that it is exclusively for that group. Otherwise, you'd be saying, I can't watch a piece of media with women in it because I am not a WOMS. Like... This is stupid on the face of it. Like, we're not even on anything Rusty Davis has said. We're a minute and a half in, and Rusty Davis has literally not said anything. We're not even out of the second paragraph.
Primarily directed at children, and children do not need to be exposed to this. It's akin to that word that begins with a G. This is not...
Oh... What a coward. He wants to say groomer so bad, but he can't even be bothered to commit to the bigotry. For God's sake, we all know what you think, Bolstrek. You think that LGBTQ plus people are predators, sight unseen. Of course you do. Of course, because you don't have anything original in your brain.
What the fans, largely now former fans, ever watched this show for. They watched it for escapism. It's like being a member of one of those Blu-ray horror monthly membership things. You expect to get, horror movies. Then you get your monthly box and see that you've been sent Rainbow Bright. It's not that you have a problem with Rainbow Bright, but this is clearly not what you wanted in your horror box. This is not what you signed up for. This is not what you
What a weird metaphor. Like, we're talking about representation in media. Like I said, remember what's motivated this. It's just Yasmin Finney being in an episode of Doctor Who. That's what's motivated this. You gotta get a grip, man.
expected. This is not what you paid for. People did not become fans of Doctor Who or any other old school franchise for that matter to be lectured to about current yearisms in a move of pure desperation on the...
Remember, we've not had a single actual episode of this era properly broadcast. We've not seen Yasmin Finney in the episode. We don't know if there is any lecturing at all. For all we know, Yasmin Finney is just in the episode, and she's just there. She just exists. There is no mention of her gender identity. There was no mention of her being trans. For example, we've not even seen the episode yet. He's getting angry at something that he's not even seen yet. It's the preemptive anger. It is quite pitiful.
Part of the already failed BBC on one end, and out of a need...
Sorry, I didn't realise that the BBC had failed. I didn't realise that this institution that just celebrated its 100th birthday had seemingly stopped while I wasn't looking. Come on.
To use a large platform to spread his condescending and elitist message. On the other end, Russell T...
Once again, how is LGBTQ plus representation being elitist or lecturing? How is just the inclusion of that demographic? How does that fit? How does that happen? Come on.
Davies returned to the helm of the beloved sci-fi show last year.
Oh my god, we've 2.5 minutes in, we've only just started the second sentence. Like, here's the thing, if Russell T Davies had actually said anything that was that bad, if he had actually said anything that was that controversial, or that obviously terrible in the face of it, he wouldn't need to preempt the argument so much. He wouldn't need to get so ahead of what Russell T Davies has said in this interview for 2.5 minutes for 2 sentences. There is like 4 sentences on this screen. I don't even think we're going to get to the Russell T Davies quote until another couple of minutes. So the fact that he's preempting the argument to this extent indicates that Bolstrek knows that what Russell T Davies is saying is not that bad, but he has to get ahead of it and overcompensate to the extent so he can performatively be angry about what is a pretty reasonable opinion.
Heartstopper fans, all 5 of them.
Heartstopper's been renewed for a 3rd, maybe even a 4th season at Netflix. Even super popular shows on Netflix don't get second seasons, so it proves that more than 5 people are watching.
We're ecstatic to learn that the brilliant Yasmin Finney, is she though? Is she really?
Come on. You don't... Like, here's the thing. I'm live streaming. So sometimes there's going to be some awkward pauses. Sometimes I'm going to need a moment to think about something. Maybe I'll say something that I think is witty and then realize, that's a bit stupid. Now I'll leave that out when I edit the segment later. But Bolstrek is like, this is a pre-edited, pre-written video. He doesn't have to have something before every single sentence. Like I said, he is signaling his virtue. He is virtue signaling his anger by overcompensating, trying to have something cutting or biting or an insult before every other word.
Was coming on board the TARDIS for the anniversary, playing the daughter of Donna Noble. Oh dear, it was confirmed that the character of Rose, like Yasmin herself, would be that word. I wonder why that is.
The word is trans. The chat's blocking it, but the word is trans. For some reason, he is so pathetic and so petty that he literally cannot stop himself from saying a slur.
A. Russell, with the actress describing her as someone with a great supportive family. You know what? There's nothing wrong with having a supportive family. That's a good thing, as long as you ground your child in reality and don't allow them to do things that they might regret later in life. Let them make those decisions when they're, a legal adult.
So, there's a lot to unpack there. So, I won't dive too deeply into this, because it might be punching a little bit below the belt and getting a little bit personal, but I actually do know a little bit about Bolstrek's family life. So this is actually a little bit sad hearing him talk about, somebody with a great supportive family. I've had members of his family and support network get in touch with me very approvingly of my reaction videos. That's all I'll say on that front. But in terms of don't try and indoctrinate kids in terms of things that they will regret. Gender-affirming care, gender-affirming surgeries specifically, have a 1% regret rate according to the data and all of the meta-studies that have been done over the past few years, specifically in America. aka a 99% satisfaction rate. So in terms of things that they'll later regret, the odds are pretty damn good that they're not going to regret it. In fact, the 1% regret rate people, it turns out that the vast majority of that 1% detransition or regret their transition because they either can't afford to continue with the treatment, or they come out and they are so stigmatized and there's so much bigotry in their support network that they are forced back into the closet, for example. So it turns out that the vast majority of people who undergo gender-affirming care and gender-affirming treatment are very, very happy with the treatment that they receive and the transition that they undergo.
Decisions when they're, a legal adult. There's just a few days to go before the public is introduced to Rose.
And also, just for the record as well, further studies have been done. A lot of this stuff was figured out, and a lot of this stuff was being studied about a century ago in the Institute for Sex in Germany, like around 100 years ago. However, a lot of that work was destroyed, and this is pre-internet, this is pre-backing up. A lot of that work was destroyed in book burnings by, guess who? The Nazis. Bolstrek, you'd probably like them. The studies and what's been done in terms of sociology has found that children tend to figure out their sexuality in their early teens, or between the ages of 12 and 14. However, children tend to find out and discover their gender identity at the age of 3 or 4. The science is really interesting in it. Not that Bolstrek cares, but it turns out that, children can be trans. Children can play with their gender identity. It's perfectly natural.
Is introduced to Rose, and at a recent press screening event ahead of the first special episode,
the Gherkin men, most people regret knee replacement than gender affirms. That's absolutely true. Knee surgeries have a 25 to 30% regret rate. Even life-saving surgeries on the heart or some organs can have regret rates because of the state that they're left in after the surgery. So does this guy want to ban knee surgeries because a quarter of the people who have knee surgeries have a dissatisfaction after the surgery is done? This is why people say, oh no, we can't be doing gender affirming care on trans people because there's a 1% regret rate, and 1% is too much of a regret rate, but they're completely fine with 25% regret rate for knee surgery. I highly doubt they care at that age. No, they don't. It's not about caring. It's just who you are. It's how, the science is really interesting on it, because gender, this is massively simplifying it. Gender, in terms of gender roles and gender presentation, is a social construct. There's this idea that there was the hunter gatherer, and there was the women would stay behind in the cavemen days to wash the dishes or whatever while the man goes out to hunt the buffalo. Turns out that's bullshit. Because if you're going to be fighting the saber-toothed tiger to bring meat home to the cave, you don't care about gender roles. You all fight the saber-toothed tiger as a family, as a group, regardless of gender. Gender roles, masculinity, femininity, and things like that, are things that, as a society, as a species, we have adopted as a social construct, as a sense of performance. This, like I said, massive simplification here, layman's term stuff. So naturally, the state when people are born, they come, I'm a straight dude, but I ain't no hunter or fighter. I'm hunter, fighter, lover, everything there. So when children are born as a bit of a blank slate for the most, like I said, tabula rasa, massive simplification, they pick up on the gender roles around them. They pick up on the gender presentation. They pick up on the gender role in terms of representation of what they see on screen and such. And then whatever they want to be, whatever they adapt to, whatever they're naturally predisposed to, they adopt that. Like I said, massive simplification. But, research the science. It's interesting.
Of the first special episode, The Star Beast, airing, and here's how we learn how much contempt this man has for fans. Russell addressed anyone who might be full of absolute hate for the character and storyline. Actually, you're the one that seems full of hate here, Russell, and I'm assuming you're also lumping in people who don't actually have a problem with the character in principle. They just don't want to see divisive, current year politicizing in their sci-fi show, which...
I don't know how trans people are current year, because trans people have been around since there have been people. Since we've had gender roles and gender presentation as a social construct. Wasn't there a Roman emperor, who was, maybe not trans, but at least gender non-conforming? I forget. Maybe it might have even been an Egyptian king or queen. I can't remember. But either way, I don't even know how it's current year. He's just using buzzwords. He's going off the ironically, the box ticking bingo of buzzwords for his hate.
which, you know, is supposed to be about science fiction. Not
And also, oh, Russell, you're the one who's full of absolute hate. Keep in mind that Russell T Davies, an Egyptian non-binary ruler, yeah, of course. But yeah, Russell T Davies, it turns out, Russell, you are the person who is actually full of hate because you don't like people who want you dead.
insufferable lecturing. As I said, they signed up for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, not Rainbow Bright. Speaking to Metro.co.uk
They signed up for Doctor Who, which can be both, by virtue and nature of the show.
and other press, Russell was asked about the inclusion of a trans character, an actor, and the Queer as Folk and It's a Sin creator spoke proudly of the decision and made it clear how much he hates his fans. It's something that...
Okay, like he had to preempt it one more time. We are 4 minutes in. We are halfway into this video, and we're only just now getting to the actual quote. Like I said, he has to poison the well for 4 minutes. He has to preempt the argument. He has to line the presumably bigoted viewer and his audience up for 4 full minutes in order to justify his position. This is a guy, or a man-child, I should say, Bolstrek, who knows he has practically nothing to work with. Very handsome photo. Yeah, I thought he was meant to try and like deter us from Russell T Davies, but this is very flattering.
That's not just a Doctor Who thing for me, he explained. I don't think a clear statement could ever be made, and that's why every long-term property has been destroyed. Not everyone shares your worldview, Russell, and there's nothing wrong with that. Why don't you make your own show if there are things you want to talk about? Well, I think we know the reason, and I think we all know why you suddenly decided to come back to Doctor Who after over a decade. It's something
Okay, there was a lot to unpack there. Firstly, Russell T Davies is doing it in his own show. He is the showrunner of Doctor Who. He can do that. But also, he also has written an awful lot between Doctor Who and Doctor Who. It's a Sin, Years and Years, in English Scandal, etc. He's done a lot of work. He has done that in his other shows. So he is doing that. But also the whole like implication of, oh, we all know why he's come back. Like, name it. Say it. What's the examples? What's happened? Because Years and Years did really well for the BBC. It was a well-received and award-winning high-end TV drama. And when it comes to It's a Sin, it was a hugely award-winning, critically acclaimed show that broke records for Channel 4. It was watched by millions of people. It was like the most watched show in Channel 4 history on their on-demand service. He's done incredibly well. He's not come crawling back to Doctor Who. He is a massively successful person who it's more likely that the BBC came crawling back to him. It's like the implication is not only weak, it just, under the most basic of scrutiny, it doesn't really make any sort of sense. But yeah, but the idea that, oh, you know, make your own show if you want to include this representation. Like, Bolstrek, if you want to make your own thing with the representation, you're more than entitled to do that, just in the same way that Russell T Davies is just entitled to use his platform, the shows that he is running, to extol the virtues that he wants. Like, this is such a moot nothing point.
It's something I and a lot of writers are keen to do, to be progressive, to reflect more of society. This is not really reflecting more of society, Russell, if you go out of your way to exclude certain demographics. Entertainment should be...
Firstly, by definition, it is reflecting more of society. To have a group of people, a marginalized group, in this case, a woman of color, a trans woman, be in a TV show, means that she is being represented in, like, this is such a stupid argument. Of course, like, definitionally, it still makes sense.
Reflecting more of society.
Yeah, definitionally, it reflects more of society, just by her inclusion in it.
This is not really reflecting more of society, Russell, if you go out of your way to exclude certain demographics.
Like, who is being excluded here? Like, honestly, he's not going to answer this, but who is being excluded? Like, just because this character is played by Yasmin Finney, somebody who in the writing was written as a young trans woman, like, who is being excluded here? Like, honestly, that's a genuine question, though. Who is being excluded? Like who? White people? Yeah, he means white people. Of course he does.
Entertainment should be for everybody. And up until 2015...
Like, entertainment should be for everybody, so everybody can be in it, everybody can be a part of it, everybody can be represented in it. Like, this is so, like, self-defeating. No wonder it needed 4 minutes of build-up in order to get to this.
Or so, this show tried to appeal to everybody. This is not appealing to a larger demographic, Russell. Not everybody has the same idea of progressive, but your egocentric fathead can't see that.
This needs context. What's your definition of progressive, Bolstrek? What is your definition of it? because that would be super revealing.
Think you're better than everyone else, and this is all about your ego. You've started to believe your own legend a bit too much. It's funny, in casting Yasmin, there was this 15-year-old mixed race word I can't say girl. Could you have fit any more identities in there, Russell? There are...
Come on. He's just trying to include like a cutting remark at the end of every sentence. But here's the thing. I am in my 30s. I am white. I am male. I'm dyspraxic, so technically disabled. So just with that, with those 4 qualifiers, I actually have more identity traits than this sentence here with Yasmin Finney. And am I now woke? Is the woke inside the house? Is the woke me? The word is trans, is not... No, according to the comment section on my last video, he wants to say a slur. He wants to say the T slur. He is somebody who cannot hide his bigotry to the extent where he cannot say the word trans, otherwise he'll shout out a slur. Oh my god, can you imagine Bolstrak in a police lineup where you've got, like, say, 5 people against a wall at a police lineup. One of them is black. And the police officer is, can you please identify the man who assaulted you, the man who robbed you, or whatever? And it is the black man who did it in this hypothetical scenario. And Bolstrak cannot say the black man because he will shout a slur. Oh my god, he's so insane.
The casting. More evidence that this will only appeal to a very niche audience. And it's like she came down from heaven and there she was. Or was it that she was the only one that matched your very narrow casting specifications? And are you just projecting your own self-view onto this person? Revealing...
Yeah, this is stupid. This could be said of almost any sort of casting decision, to be honest. Like, for example, he's casting Lenny Rush in an upcoming episode of Doctor Who in Series 14. For example, I'm sure the script required a child actor who is disabled and, you know, in terms of ability, in terms of performance, needs great comedic timing, needs to be great in front of a camera. Like, you know, that is quite a narrow brief in terms of, like, searching for actors and a quite limited talent pool. But sometimes... that's what happens. Sometimes there are specific stories that you want to tell. For this character, I need a middle-aged, super angry Canadian with a lisp. Has he always had a lisp, or is that just something I'm only noticing in this video? I'm not sure. Folks, maybe you can remind me and let me know. There we go. Is now Bolstrak's super niche pandering casting if he were to be cast in that project? Like I said, this is a stupid argument.
Projecting your own self-view onto this person. Revealing she was cast before she ever appeared in Heartstopper, Russell said Yasmin does the most amazing job and it's an actual privilege to work with her and get her on screen. You better check your own privilege there, Russell. Russell further endeared himself.
What does that even mean in this context? What does that even mean? What does it mean, Bolstrak? Chris, what does it mean? Chris, tell me.
Russell further endeared himself to the largely former fans when he added pointedly that there were some people full of absolute hate and venom and destruction and violence who would like to see that sort of thing wiped off the screen entirely. Wow, dude, I've been covering the destruction of the entertainment industry for a while now, and that might be one of the most vile things I've ever read from somebody in charge of a major franchise. Also, nobody said that we want these things completely wiped off the screen.
I mean, to be fair, you've not said that in this video, but you did say in this one that people under the age of 18 or children should not watch LGBTQ plus representation. And then in your last one, you were detesting the idea of a same-sex romantic comedy in Bros. So yeah, obviously, with the Garfield meme that I put on screen there, obviously he's talking about people like Bolstrak who do consider LGBTQ plus people in media to be apparently illegal. Once again, that's not how the law works. The great thing about laws is that they are, you know, written down. But also, you've got to remember the perspective that Russell T Davies is coming at this from. And also, Bolstrak would know this if he had any sort of media literacy and watched It's a Sin, where, you know, it was written in response to the AIDS epidemic in the 80s and how the American and the UK government's, frankly, genocidal approach to the handling of the outbreak of the disease, of the infection, because it was happening to a demographic that they hated. You know, was it Section 18 that was happening under Margaret Thatcher in the late 1980s, in order to, like, forbid the talking of LGBTQ plus anything in schools or in public. You know, Russell T Davies is coming at a perspective. He is literally a Section 28. Thank you, Alex. Rusty Davis is literally coming from the perspective of somebody who was around during the AIDS epidemic, who has, and he's talked about this before, an element of survivor's guilt, watching people he loved, people, friends and family and loved ones die because of the callous disregard for human life, for the, a dislike for the unlike of the LGBTQ plus community, cruel systems run by crueler people. So when Russell says he knows there are some people full of absolute hate and venom and destruction and violence who would like to see that sort of thing wiped off the screen entirely, not only is he just saying this as a point of fact, he is saying this as somebody who literally watched the systems of government around him seek to eradicate those like him. Literal death sentences for the LGBTQ plus community. If Bolstrak had watched It's a Sin or read a fucking book, he would understand this. And also, you may say, oh, but that was back in the 1980s. We're talking about now. Firstly, that is obviously still the case now. And also, you may not know this, many people who were around in the Republican Party during the time of Ronald Reagan in the 1980s and Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s in the UK are still around today as MPs, as congressmen, as members of the Senate. These people didn't go away. The AIDS epidemic didn't end in the early 90s, and then the fucking people who wanted them dead just, went back into their caves or just disappeared in holes in the ground or whatever. They're still around, perpetuating this. It was back in, Texas, wasn't it, this past week, a city in Texas, which literally, for a few days, made it illegal to be gay. For a couple of days, that happened in a city in Texas until, it rightly got some backlash, and they had to reword some of the laws that they recently passed. Because it was meant to be indecent behaviour was banned in a city in Texas. And then it turned out that indecent behaviour included in the category being gay in public, or holding hands in public, or being seen in a relationship with somebody of the same sex. That happened this week.
The place for everything, but it has to be realistic about the potential audience size.
Trans people are realistic. It will be unrealistic to not include them.
It's appealing to. Not wanting your entertainment politicized doesn't make people the scum of the earth, Russell. You elitist asshat! And to anyone...
I mean, it depends on the politics. For example, Terry Nation wrote a very controversial political story back in the 1960s for Doctor Who, which equated to Nazis bad. That's quite a controversial political position in this day and age. Russell T Davies knew Dursley McLinden, who was Sergeant Mike Smith in Remembrance of the Daleks who died of AIDS. Yes, the character that Ollie Alexander plays in It's a Sin is partly inspired by that actor from Remembrance of the Daleks. He only died a few years after that story filmed as well. He passed away of AIDS. That's what the regression of the Daleks scene homage in episode 3 of It's a Sin, that's what that's based off of.
And to anyone who held those ideals, he finished to loud applause from the sycophants who were almost surely pre-selected. Shame on you and good luck to you in your...
Imagine saying, wanting people dead is bad, and then people applauding, and you're getting mad at the people applauding. Fucking hell, Chris.
From the sycophants who were almost surely pre-selected.
You're a sycophant if you don't want LGBTQ plus people to die? Fucking hell, Chris.
Shame on you and good luck to you in your lonely lives. Wow, dude. Just wow. Again, I've never seen quite this level of hate directed at a fan base. It seems the mask has come off. Good Lord! In November...
We're talking about a writer who survived the AIDS epidemic, but many people he knew died. And Bolstrek is trying to view him as the elitist asshat who's trying to defend his community from people, the Tory government, who would want him dead and shoot him in the back of the head if they got the opportunity to. And Bolstrek is trying to paint Russell T Davies and the people who applauded at the statement as the bad guys, as the hateful ones who are hating the fan base.
In November last year, Yasmin proudly declared her role in Doctor Who would change the world, because it seems Russell isn't the only one with an out-of-control ego. She said she was...
We went over this interview in the last video. Yasmin Finney couldn't really say anything in the Vogue interview that she did in terms of spoilers, in terms of actual plot-specific things. So she just said, oh, the casting would change the world, knowingly, jokingly. But Bolstrek just got so massively triggered by an actor doing self-promotion that he made an entire video about it.
happy to be the representation on a show that means a lot to so many. Dear God, the narcissism on display here is unreal. I felt so honored to be seen by Russell, revealing to British Vogue she grew up idolizing the series. Did she though, or did she just decide she did after the fact? Doctor Who casting director Andy Pryor said last year that there would be plenty of inclusivity in the upcoming series, and as few nasty straight white dudes as possible, unless they need a Trump-esque villain, saying he likes to cast...
Bloody hell. Now, we already do know that there's going to be plenty of straight white male characters in the upcoming run of Doctor Who. Casting announcements are made every single month in Doctor Who magazine. There's a lot of white dudes in there. We even saw some filming today of who appears to be Ruby Sunday's boyfriend in Series 15. We do have Jonathan Groff, who is not straight. He is, from the theatre, of course. Musical theatre specifically. But he is a white dude. He's straight passing. But also, David Tennant is currently playing the Doctor. Crying out loud, Andy Pryor cast David Tennant again as the 14th Doctor. Why are you trying to claim that this group has been replaced out of society? Is it the Jews again, Bolstrek? Because that's who you thought it was last time. Bernard Cribbins is in the specials as well, playing Wilfred Mott. I'm sure that there's loads of, straight white people in the upcoming run of Doctor Who. But because Bolstrek is so angry at this fictional representation of the upcoming episodes of Doctor Who, once again, we have to stress, he's not seen the episodes yet. The fact that he's just getting so angry at like a point of principle here means that he is such a terrible advocate for the superior white race because he's erasing their inclusions. He's erasing the inclusions of David Tennant. He's erasing the inclusions of Bernard Cribbins. He's erasing the inclusions of all of the straight white dudes who are going to be in the upcoming run of Doctor Who just because he hates black people and trans people so much.
Possible, unless they need a Trump-esque villain, saying he likes to cast as inclusively as possible. It's more interesting. Yes, narrowing your casting choices to adhere to ESG scores rather than talent and suitability for the role is sure to end well. I mean, it's already worked out so...
Firstly, that's not what ESG is, but also, casting as inclusively as possible is the exact opposite of limiting. Like, definitionally. Like, this isn't even just an opinion thing. This is just how words work.
Well, in the past, he added to Cult Box, if you can't cast diversely on Doctor Who, what show can you do it on? Well, you ain't making it on your own show, so who knows? It goes everywhere.
Andy Pryor is the casting director on shows like It's a Sim. Like, he was even, casting director on that recent... Peter Capaldi show for Amazon, The Devil's Hour. Andy Pryor gets around. He does a lot of casting. And this is still his show. He is casting diversely on his own show.
On this planet and others, and you don't want to see the same kind of people all the time. Maybe you should give up your role as showrunner, Russell, to make it more diverse. Oh, wait.
No, Russell's not saying that. This is Andy Pryor. Why is he He's attributed this quote to Russell T Davies, but it's Andy Pryor. It's on screen. It is one sentence after the other. He is so divorced from reality. He is seeing so much red right now. He literally cannot read. He has fragmented from this mortal coil. His brain is in the stratosphere. He is so angry. Remember what's motivated this. Yasmin Finney being in Doctor Who is what has motivated this entire video, and he has now lost complete grips on reality. Yasmin Finney in the Vogue interview said that it would change the world. She was joking, but in terms of Bolstrek, she really, really has. She's completely fragmented the whole plane of existence in Bolstrek's mind. She has indeed changed his world, and that's fucking funny.
Oh wait, what a moron I am. It's never elitists like you that have to make the sacrifices. Other people have to make the sacrifices so you can feel better about yourself and so far above everyone else that it leads to excessive figurative
Who's making the sacrifices? Who's being excluded? Like, he's read the statement. Like, he thinks that Russell has said this, but either way the words still ring true. Like, who's being excluded here? Who's making the sacrifices? I'm genuinely asking here. Also, when does he mention me? We've got less than a minute left. I was told that he mentioned me.
Of wankery. You don't...
Oh yeah, constructing a public cliche, absolutely.
...wanted to be exclusively middle-class white people speaking with PR accents. Of course, Russell, because you hate those dirty regular people, and how dare they not bow at your feet. So right now we're casting more diversely in terms of ethnicity. We're casting more disabled actors. But there's always more we can do. Yep, because all that matters is adhering to that small group of sycophants to stroke your ego while everyone else can get bent. Remember when
Jesus Christ! Imagine responding to, we want more disability representation on screen. We're going to have Ruth Madeley. We're going to have Lenny Rush. We're going to have positive representation for disabled actors. People who, honestly, have a pretty tough time finding regular income outside of, villain roles or actors with dwarfism playing dwarfs in pantomime and stuff. Imagine looking at that group of people, disabled actors, and saying, and I quote, "Get bent." This isn't just anti-talent. This is not just disabled people. This is just anti-life. This is a death cult approach. Genuinely. We saw in his review years ago of It Takes You Away, the actress who played Hannah, who was blind, he thought that was woke, stupid diversity casting too. He just does not think that disabled people should be in media. It's sycophantic to think that disabled people should be in media? Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Remember when I questioned Russell's sudden return 2 years ago? It seems, once again, that I was right, and I thought I was done with this, but I guess I'm not. I look forward to your comments and response videos, especially beardy woke pants piss baby reviews. Hey dude, has your wife returned your testicles yet? Oh wait, how can what you never had be returned? That's crazy! And that's it for today. Follow me on Elon's bus.
Oh, is that it? That's all he had to say about me? What?
Especially beardy woke pants piss baby reviews. Hey dude, has your wife returned your testicles yet? Oh wait, how...
Now, I mentioned in my last response video to Gobster the quote from Remembrance of the Daleks: "You can always judge a man by the quality of his enemies." And like I said, I think that's an insult against me, because the people who hate me are absolutely shit. Firstly, Mr. Piss Baby Beardy Review, whatever, the fact that he won't even mention me properly by name is stupidly cowardly, like staggeringly so. But also the fact that he doesn't even have an actual response. He just looks forward to the response video, but he doesn't actually have a response. He doesn't actually mention anything for it. Like, he doesn't really have anything. When it comes to the last response video I did, I watched it earlier today to prepare for this one. And so much of that response video was just me asking for examples, was me asking for specifics, was me asking for evidence. And the fact that he took those pretty basic requests for clarification, evidence, substantiation, anything in the realm of reality, and that was his response, not only does it indicate that he is incredibly terrified of me, it would be interesting if he did some sort of a response video that actually included, what I'm saying in the video, something to respond to, but I also know that he knows full well that if his audience see a actual argument, see a thought process, see an actual, a position that's been given some sort of thought on this issue of representation and disability and trans people and stuff like that, he knows that that is like exposing them to sunlight, and that they'll instantly see through his bullshit. We need to do the final thing that will really piss off Bolstrak. A cat that is both black and white. The trigger train has rolled in, and its sole occupant is a Nazi named Bolstrak. The fact that that was all he could say, he won't even mention me by name, he'll just, do a stupid, petty playground insult at the end of a video, not only shows that he is astonishingly, staggeringly weak, but that he knows he's weak.
Oh wait, what a moron I am. What a moron I am.